Hi there, Michaela with Michaela's Counseling here. Do you ever wonder if you're experiencing transference with a therapist or if they're actually doing something wrong or if they're actually treating you in a way that warrants the feelings that you're having? If so, or if you've ever experienced that or you don't know what the heck transference is, you'll like this video. I'm going to explain a bit about transference and I'm also going to give you some really simple ways to be able to start to really identify like what you're experiencing that's yours and what you're experiencing that might actually be about something that your therapist is doing. So, transference is a term that harkens back to analytic literature. And what it means is it's really simple. We all do transference all day, every day. It's a transfer of feelings that we had early in our life to people who are in our life now. Now, the gift of transference with a good therapist is that you actually get to feel those feelings and ultimately work through them so that you don't just see your therapist more clearly, you actually see the people in your life more clearly, and it frees up a lot of space in relationships, and it helps you to have insight and clarity and to actually heal those old wounds that left you feeling maybe like really angry or really unheard or really hurt. So transference is a really important signal, and with somebody who is skillful with it and who is kind to you in the midst of it, it can actually make room for you to notice that maybe you're having a different experience these days than you used to when you were a child. Now, I'm actually going to give you a few indicators, and I'm going to start by talking about an indicator I look for. When a client of mine brings a reaction to me, one of the questions that I ask myself is A, is the reaction actually, does it feel valid to me? Like if a person says, you're really not listening to me, I might actually check in with myself and notice if there's some way that I'm being less attentive that day than usual. Like, is there some way that actually I'm not reflecting back what they're saying in the same way that I usually would, or I'm not listening as deeply or as intently? Because the fact is, we all have our good days and our bad days. So one of the first things that I ask myself, and I'll do it like right with my client, they'll say, you are feeling such and such, and I'll say, let me check inside with myself and see if see if there is any part of me that's feeling that way. Pick that up from a therapist colleague of mine, and I just love it because as therapists, we are obviously human too, and most of the feelings that my clients have in a session, part of it's going to be related to their past, of course, but part of it is very, very often related to something that I actually am doing or not doing, something that's a little bit different between maybe how I was last week. And so there's often really a piece of validity to it. Now, as a client, you can ask yourself, does this feeling feel really familiar? Because if the feeling that you're having towards your therapist is a feeling that goes a long way back, or a feeling that you find yourself having in a lot of interactions with people, chances are there is a piece to it that's transference. And again, there's a really hopeful piece to that because that gives you really the opportunity to check it out and work it through with somebody who cares for you and has the training to actually be able to help you to work through those feelings and be able to sort and puzzle them out. Now, I'm going to actually give an example of something that actually is a fun crossroads, which is usually what these moments are, where there is actually a piece for my clients that might be transference, but there's actually a piece validly as a therapist. It's a piece of feedback that actually it's connected to me. And so with clients, actually, we get to do really rich work on this intersection. So sometimes I make mistakes with sending appointment reminders. Sometimes I forget to do that. And it's something that I've found an automated system for that I love. So it gets better over time. From time to time, I've dropped the ball with clients. And what's really interesting about that is different clients will have different reactions. Some clients will say, hey, I didn't quite get the appointment reminder. Are we still on? And I say, yes, we are. I'm sorry, I forgot to send it. And everything's fine. Other clients might experience like a really strong rage reaction or a reaction of feeling like I don't care about them as much as they'd like. And I don't want to say as much as they'd like because I think that we're all actually really entitled to deep care from the people that we work with. So scratch the as much as we'd like, but they feel like I don't care. They feel like they've dropped out of my world. I've had other clients really have a memory of something that is like really old for them where it's like, gosh, you're not taking care of the appointment scheduling and it feels like nobody's manning the store. Like I have to be in charge of everything. Like I have to remind you. And when we really work with that and we have empathy and I own my part in it and really surmise that that's obviously having an impact on them, we might get to something where it's like, my parents really weren't responsible and I really never felt like I had somebody that I could just be secure with who had things taken care of. So what's really nice about things like this, I don't love that I make mistakes in the therapy, but I do really appreciate and savor the opportunities that when a client comes in with hurt or with anger, there is very, very often something that I said or something that I did or something that I didn't do where we can surely look back at the interaction or even look at the recording if one or both of us recorded, which I love doing because it lets us, one of the things it does is it lets us actually revisit the interaction and we learn new things every time. But it's a really great opportunity when somebody has these feelings because, as I was saying, there's a part that's going to be valid or at least an interpretation based on something that actually happened. And there's very often a part that's historical. And what's really good about when we're able to actually acknowledge and hold both is that it really facilitates like exploration that really lets people to start to move through and see some healing in some of these places in them that have been really hurting. Now, part of the healing comes from me saying something like, gosh, you talk about how you've had to be in control of everything so much of your life and as a child, and I feel sad that you were put in that role again. And here's what I'm going to do with the scheduling. For some people, that's like a really new experience to have somebody listen and to have somebody say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to step up. I'm going to be here for you. And it's not going to be up to you anymore to remind me about the appointments. And as they're able to take in that experience, it actually facilitates both relief and some grief for what they didn't have growing up. Now, I want to talk about something that actually makes it really, really hard for people to work through transference or to even identify it. And it's two different things therapists can do. It's two different extremes that we can go to. One extreme is, let's say that you come to me and you're having a hurt feeling and I take the responsibility in almost like an over the top way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I messed up. I'm so upset. Like, how do I fix this for you? That doesn't really facilitate actual healing or actual awareness of what's going on for you in that moment, so that even if I did make a mistake, it's not going to be that helpful to you if I actually make it about me with my apology. Now, the other extreme that people go to, and especially people who may have more of an analytic background, is to actually immediately go to assuming that this is something about you and this is something about your early relationships. And so if actually the person tosses it back in your lap all the time when you're having a difficult feeling and they go straight to, so what does that remind you of? Or so what do you make of it that you're interpreting me in this way? Or even just doing simple reflection. So when I say, when you're talking to me, you feel invalidated. If they're not actually taking an active role in helping you to explore and to tease apart what's going on, and especially if they don't seem apt to take any responsibility or do any kind of self-reflection on how they're contributing to the interaction, it can actually be pretty crazy making in a therapy. And so it's one of the concerns that I see come up with therapists who try really hard to be neutral. That neutrality stance started out with actually wanting to facilitate transference so that actually you wouldn't be having feelings towards the therapist, but just actually feeling feelings towards them that were related with earlier memories. And the thought behind that was, well, if I'm not too supportive and I'm not creating a new experience, they'll actually go fully enough into the old one that we can really heal it. Now, more recent therapies are actually working with a model that the emotions that we feel, they're co-created. No matter what we do, whether we're neutral or we're really engaged, we're still co-creating the kind of experience and the kind of emotions that we both feel. So I personally really like to take an actively engaged approach with my clients and to take responsibility where it actually makes sense to do so, and to really be curious about both my role and the client's role and their history and maybe something about my history. And so that even if I'm not bringing bringing that explicitly into the room, I may say to a client, I know something about that. I know something about this trait that you're pointing out in me. Like one of the things clients have brought up, and this is less of a thing over time, but I used to be really smiley in a way that clients would sometimes feel like I maybe wasn't getting the depth of their pain. Now, that's something I know about myself. That's something that I know, that I have history of kind of learning to smile, especially in uncomfortable situations. And it's something that has actually been able to lead to really deep exploration with my clients and to them really being able to see past the smile and really, really hear, really take in my care, my compassion. So it's almost always not going to be just transference or just, oh, this therapist is doing something wrong. There's usually some kind of intersection. And the big issue comes in if the therapist actually isn't helping you to navigate where that intersection is so that you actually really can identify which piece of it is yours and which piece has to do with the interaction. So I hope this is helpful. Please comment, let me know what stands out to you about this. And if any part of this is kind of a new awareness for you or gives you a sense of a different kind of possibility for a kind of way that you can work through these really difficult feelings in therapy and find a different outcome. Thank you.